Hello and welcome to another episode of NBL Overtime. The NBL season is finally underway and we're joined as usual, none better, Peter Hooley, Lanard Copeland. We are fresh from Western Australia and I may say it myself, HoopsFest could not have been more of a success.
Had a lot of fun out there, meeting all the fans, just a vibe around the place. Once I found my coffee, that is. I finally found my coffee, but then the hoops on the court was exceptional, but everything else off it was awesome. Kenny Smith, Carmelo Anthony, everybody was there. It was just an awesome experience to be around. And again, the fact that we're talking about it overall, not just the basketball on the court, is the best thing.
Amazing vibes. The basketball was good. The teams were good. We're a bit surprised with some of the results, but I just thought it was fantastic.
You know what was good about it as well is Western Australia came to the party. We know that it's a little tough to travel at times for families to get all the way over to WA. We got footy going on. We got all this different stuff. But one, we did get good travels. My flight back was full of Melburnians.
Yes.
But the WA crowd came out and it had me thinking, second WA team at some point. I had no confidence in it before, but I think that the crowd is enough where we could potentially at some point down the road have two in that great city.
That's a little bit scary for me.
But you're also going to have to get those die-hard Red Army fans to say, oh, all that success we had, I'm just going to start fresh with a new team. Unless their marquee player was Bryce, they somehow pry Bryce away, I'm not so sure.
You have to do something like that, though.
Correct.
Go get Bryce.
You do something crazy. But you know what else I loved about HoopsFest? Was the way that they embraced some of our basketballing legends. First off, it was Andrew Gaze. They came on to him after the commentary, but I think it was a bit weird. The Gaze was giving out his own shoes to the fans post-game. I know you got a brand, you got to push it out, but that lucky fan, he took him right off his feet and gave it to him, Lanard.
Nice. Gaze is a superstar around the world.
He was getting mobbed.
There are plenty of fans, man. And look, Perth have those fans that recognize people all around the world. So
also, my man, you were looking slick the entire weekend. So much so, you told us that you owned Challenge Stadium. You were the man.
Here we go.
Walked into that. So much so,
I knew it was
you decided to dress like one of the stadium seats.
Here we go. Don't laugh at it. It's not that funny.
You got 1,000 jackets in that wardrobe. And have a look at that, my man.
There we go.
Dressed as a damn seat.
Right.
You look good.
That jacket looked good.
I really like that jacket.
Thank
and again,
you.
shout out Men's Club for making sure we look
100%.
great. You look phenomenal. But it was great being at HBF Stadium, the old Challenge Stadium. Again, a smaller crowd. Still got really into it. And the second
atmosphere was fantastic, wasn't it?
Nearly had an unbelievable result in the first game. So I liked that switch up from RAC. But again, the boombox at RAC. Plenty to build on for whatever happens in the future.
It was all going well, apart from the time that I call it HoopsFest on broadcast. That was probably the only
that scared me.
The only low point of the weekend. But let's crack into the games that were, because the last one was arguably the best. Sydney defeating Adelaide in a fantastic contest. The run to the start. 19 points, they were up, I believe, in the first quarter, and then Adelaide fight back. It was the best game of HoopsFest for me.
It was phenomenal. And again, shout out Adelaide for the way that they managed to halt momentum and then have their own, right? Like DJ Vasiljevic was huge in the first quarter. Montrezl Harrell, which we'll talk about, but it was in the first quarter. It was Lat Mayen and Jason Kadee who hit some big shots that mattered most. And then they weathered storms against Sydney's talent. But Trez, how good was he? It was so fun to watch. And again, that way to end HoopsFest like that. Copes, you called the game. I managed to sit there courtside and had a lot of fun. And we'll talk a lot about both teams, no doubt. But that's just a perfect way to end HoopsFest.
We managed to have Gorgon on pregame. And we asked him some hard-hitting questions. You did, in fact. And he answered them quite well. But the question I asked was the identity of this team. And they came out on fire, blowing Adelaide out. But then they let Adelaide right back in the game. And the good thing about Adelaide is they held their nerve, and as soon as Jarrell Martin comes back, they're going to be a team to deal with.
On that topic of Adelaide, we trashed them in the off-season, and rightly so. There was a lot of mistakes made, but they came out, and for 3.5 quarters, they almost outplayed Sydney, who the perennial, we said there's no way they can be beat. So we have to give credit to Adelaide, Grant Kelly, the ownership, everyone involved in Adelaide. I think they've got the right guy in Wells. I think they've made the right decision. It may be an early call, but he looks like the guy. We spoke to him pre-game. He knows what's up. You could spot the fakers, and it's certainly not him.
Yeah, he was. You're right. And he spoke about Jason Kadee being his rock, the guy that he could depend on, the guy that keeps the guys together. But you spoke about Lat Mayen. How good was he?
He's the most improved player candidate.
100%.
Lat Mayen, again, he's been looking for this consistent opportunity. I think last year at Cairns, I think he only averaged 7 points a game. But any time he played more than 20 minutes, he was in double figures. So again, he knows what to do with the opportunity. He went home. His family also travelled to Perth, gets to play in front of it. And you know all the eyes are going to be on guys like DJ, Harrell, Kendrick Davis, Isaac Humphries. So you've just got to pick your spots. He did that. He had 23 points. He was outstanding. Mike Wells is phenomenal. I think he's going to have a really strong head coaching career. And Montrezl Harrell, you talk about when Jarrell Martin comes back. Make no mistake, I'm talking to Adelaide people. They want him here. They want him here for the year.
They better keep him, yes.
Montrez is everything this league wants and needs. Showtime on the floor, a winner, he's yelling. Credit to whoever decided to mic him up. Fantastic. Do it every week. The only thing that marred it was the official who gave him the warning for hyping up the crowd. This was one of the moments of HoopsFest right there. That's what we want. Now, devil's advocate, we don't really know entirely what was being said there. There is a rule that says you can't incite the crowd.
It's the FIBA rule. So this is what it came after. This is what I didn't. There was probably other things. It's the FIBA rule, I believe, is engage and incite the crowd. So we got that wrong. And then I like that we had the mic'd up moment of the referee going and saying, "Well, I got that wrong. I'm going to rescind that." And he had a bit of fun saying, "I haven't played for a year. I'm going to hype people up anyway." The idea, I think, of it is if there's something going on in the crowd and you're getting extra verbal and cross a line, I understand that. Clearly, that wasn't it.
Right.
Because if that's a warning,
we
lose Bryce. We lose Bryce on Friday night.
Done, yeah.
So I'm glad that it got sorted in the moment because it was a big talking point.
Part of me doesn't care if Montrez jumps the fence and jumps into the crowd and starts swinging, man. We
want the crowd engagement, though. We want those people to say,
Not that.
But we want the crowd engagement. We want him to do what he did and play hard all night.
With the goodness of Montrez, the elephant in the room, of course, Isaac Humphries. 2 points, 1 rebound. Where does he fit? Is this a flash in the pan, or is this a bigger problem that could be lurking?
I spoke about that earlier. If you got to get him going early. You got to feed him the ball. Now, Kendrick Davis is a point guard who likes to score. He's not that point guard who's looking to pass. He will pass. He's a willing passer, but he's all about getting his points off. You need someone like Jason D, who's in the game, who can facilitate and get guys the ball, but he waited too late. He got into foul trouble. His head was gone. Once his head's gone, you got nothing from Isaac.
I think you've got to find however it works to get KD and Isaac Humphrey on the floor at the same time. Whether that's someone coming off the bench or whether that's making an earlier substitution than normal. And maybe that is right as it stands. So Isaac Humphrey maybe comes out first in the first 4 minutes or whatever. And then he comes back in at the 3-minute mark and gets to play an 8-minute stretch with Jason KD. That's the player that he really likes to play with. And again, all that combination is going to come. But the way it looks, and as I said, the Adelaide 36ers, they'd love Montrezl Harrell to stay for the year. And then that makes sense of he signed for 8 weeks, I believe. What happens with Jarrell Martin when he comes back? If he's healthy and looks good, then there's a decision to make. But also don't forget, if Trez keeps playing this well, the NBA teams can come knocking at any point as well. So there's a lot of different things to weigh up. We're just taking a game at a time, and selfishly, I want to see him here for the whole season.
Also, we've got to remember that for Isaac, this is possibly the toughest matchup in the league. This is a team of forwards you are coming up against, and Cam Oliver, Xavier Cooks. That is a tough matchup for somewhat of an old-school big. But speaking of those forwards, Xavier Cooks came back exactly how we remember him. There was no major Showtime play,
but he was massive.
Maybe I'm getting a little bit greedy too early.
He was awesome. 19 and 13. And again, I love this because we talk about the Red Army coming out to support a team that's not Perth. They were there in full force. People were yelling, "You're not. You always be number 2." Like it's Zave's fault that he got voted in that pre-poll. But I thought he was exceptional, and again, he stood up when it mattered most.
The one thing about the Sydney Kings, though, is they have so many superstars. They're not all going to shine every night, and that's the problem. Like the other night, 3 guys shine. Next week, it'll be 3 different guys because they have that much talent on and off the bench.
On that talent, though, in the fourth quarter, Bull Quoll, Jalen Adams, Alex Tui, Xavier Cooks played the entire fourth quarter. Kelly Le'Pepe played 25 seconds. Cam Oliver played 9.5 minutes. So Gorge played 5 guys for the entire fourth quarter. You spoke about it in the presser. You talk about how much depth in the rotations. That stuff is going to have to be figured out at some point.
Let's talk about Le'Pepe. How good was he? Setting screens, knocking down shots, playing the right way. You have to be a good player if you got the trust of Gorgon. And Gorgon started him and played him that many minutes. He did all the right things. He set screens. He grabbed rebounds when they needed it. He knocked down jump shots when they needed it. He didn't complain. He's such a good player. Sydney are tough. They're tough.
Yeah, the championship replay was one to watch as well. Kicked off HoopsFest, Melbourne United taking on the Jack Jumpers. It was United too good by 9 points. Peter Hooley, your early thoughts on this one? We wanted Milton Doyle to step up, and he certainly got the attempts up, and he was solid all over.
It was a bit of a slog and a grind this game, which is what you expect. It's normally when we've waited so long for the season, right? It's a championship rematch, all the talk before and after of what's happened the last 5 months. It's always going to be some sort of grind. It might not be the prettiest basketball, but yeah, I think I looked at this whole game, and especially in the first quarter, and again, we're going to talk about excuses and all of that, but Tassie looked really tired in the first quarter. They had one free throw attempt to 9 threes. So that's a team that was settling a little bit for whatever reason. Milton Doyle didn't score in the first quarter, then was his usual dominant self in the last 3 quarters. I saw that. I saw all the trouble. I saw it all in the first quarter. And then they really slowed it down to try and grind it out with Melbourne, who, to be honest, Melbourne's happy to grind it out.
Yeah.
If you want to grind it out, they'll do it. If you want to play fast, they'll do it. They adapt on the fly. But in the end, it was a result I think many probably predicted.
The major story out of this was not on court. It was off court. It was pre-game. It was Scott Roth's pre-game interview with Joe Healy. Let's have a listen to that now.
Really want to ask about the championship series and what kind of emotions are going through your mind now being here for the rematch tonight.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but we don't talk about that anymore, so I'm not going to go down that alley.
Okay, fair enough. What about tonight? You've talked a lot this week about injuries and the schedule coming into this game. How have you tried to spin that for the guys and sort of feed their confidence coming into the game?
Well, we haven't really spun anything other than the fact that we played these 5 games in 8 days, and we're ready to go for tonight.
In the words of the great Andrew Gaze, turn it up, Scott Roth. Turn it up. We've heard nothing but complaints out of this Tassie group, and not really out of the Tassie group, mainly out of Scott Roth, and I think it climaxed there. We've had complaints about the pre-season with Sean McDonald going down, which was a rolled ankle. It wasn't an overuse injury. It was a freak sprained ankle, something that could happen whether you've played 1 game or whether you've played 50. This whole defend the island underdog mantra feels like it's almost being a little bit undone. You've got that interview, you've got the continuous complaints. Is there a team vibe issue right now in Tassie?
I think he proves that he's human, because we've been looking at Scott Roth as superhuman. Every year he takes that team and takes them to a championship where they play well. So he's been superhuman. Now all of a sudden he has a bad one. People are down on him, and so they should be, because the media are here to help you. We're here to blow your team up, to help your team. And
but it's the complaints. It's the idea of any time, any place is what you want to give to your team. Now, Scott Roth is arguably the best coach in this league. So when we say all this, remember that. Yeah. Scott Roth is probably, I would go as far as saying, the best coach in this league. Brian Goorjian probably has the runs on the board. But for me, it's just a little unacceptable.
What I'm getting out of this Tassie for the last couple of weeks is the absence of Jack McVeigh.
Yeah.
Because Jack McVeigh is just a unique person, right? The way he lives his life, the way he goes about it, what he meant to Tassie since he's been there. No one, I'm not talking about on the court. That's a different issue as well. But no one can replace what Jack McVeigh brought. And don't underestimate the Jack McVeigh. You talk about what Scott Roth had meant to that culture and built it up, what they did it together. They did this thing together. That, I think, is really coming to play here. But also, I understand that Tassie, I think it was a couple of years ago, they started 0-3 and they were 20 minutes away from being 0-4. No matter what happens over the next 4 weeks with injuries and doing all of that, they're still going to be around the mark, because they just find a way to get it done and they find a way to grit and bear it. So I do see is just that Jack McVeigh, and who steps up in that regard, I'm not sure. I don't know. Those personalities are so unique.
On that topic of stepping up, is there a point now, I've again prefaced this, Jordan Crawford is one of the best guards in the league. He's showtime, love watching him play. Is his inconsistency more visible now with Jack McVeigh out of this team, where it's mainly Doyle and Crawford taking the helm?
I think they have to score. You're right. They're the inputs. They have to be more consistent, especially Doyle. Doyle's a superstar. We know that. But he's been up and down. Some games he doesn't look to score. He has to be that first-year Doyle, aggressive. He has to have you on your heels, coming at you every night. And, in fact, when Derek put him in that top 15 at number 13 I heard things, and he wasn't happy. So he come out the next game and scored 24, 25 points. So hopefully that kicks it off for him, and he gets going.
Death taxes and Delhi starting the season on fire. He does this every time out, and he looks to have begun this way again. We love seeing him at the start of the year. He must be on that steak diet again. 21 points, 3 rebounds. And can I say to the graphics man, can we stop writing arse and maybe put AST for assist? That's just sticking out. That's sticking out to me right now, because Delhi got
funny sticks out to him and nobody else.
Of course, I didn't even think about it. I'm just thinking that is unbelievable. Delhi, this is the new Delhi. This isn't a once-off when he came to the NBL and he started to get a real aggressive mindset. This is now the way that Matthew Dellavedova plays. He is a score-first guard. He is a guy who's going to put heat on the rim. He's going to step behind if you go under and let it fly. He is an offensive threat now whenever he steps on the floor, and that's what Melbourne United need. And that's what got him back to Paris. That's what all of that, because you know no matter what, when push comes to shove, game on the line, if you need a stop, he's still in your best 5. And if you need a bucket, he's now in your best 5. All those things maybe you couldn't have said years ago, but this is the new Delhi, and they needed him to do that. Chris Golding coming off illness, that's why he came off the bench. So they needed other guys to step up, and then I think Siulepa again is in an offensive mindset. Without JLA, without LT, this is a new look Melbourne.
My question is, new look Melbourne, are they good enough?
Yeah, from what I saw, I'd say yes.
As I said before, because I think if you need to speed up, they'll push the pace. They'll get Krebs is coming in, Ian Clark's coming in. When CG's healthy, he's going to do his thing. Jack White is one of the most athletic bigs in the league. And if you need to grind it out, well, then you've got Siulepa and Delhi well, let's grind it out, baby. So, yes, I think they can adapt better than any other team.
What do we think of Jack White? Obviously, he comes out, he's got 14, 7 and 2. The numbers are never going to blow you out of the water. For the people saying, oh, this could be an MVP year, even All-NBL first team, he's not really that type of guy, but he's a winner. He's won at every level, and he's continuing to do that here because he affects the game on both ends.
He's athletic, he's aggressive, he's a winner, like you said, but he's strong, man. And look, I think Dean Vickerman has to let him know, you got the green light, and he's good enough. We talked to Chris Goulding a couple of weeks ago. He said this guy hasn't missed a shot in training. So go out there in the game and take the big shots. We want you to.
He's just got to hit a couple, right, from outside. With CG coming back, that'll take pressure off him because whenever he's on the floor, the defense moves a little bit closer to Chris Golding. And even on the ball screen or on a handoff, he's going to get more dunks. But I think that was a good first one, but I still expect him to have that All-NBL caliber season.
Shout out to Chris Golding as well for managing to get 1-3 late in that game
yes,
to continue that streak to 64 straight games, which is an NBL record. We saw he was hunting for it. He was yelling at his teammate who didn't get him on the previous one, so he managed to get that. But one of the major marquee matchups in this one was the Perth Wildcats back in action. They managed to get it done against the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix team, which was heavily hyped in the preseason.
Look, again, we're going to talk about Phoenix after this, but I could not be higher on what Perth can achieve this year. And I think we saw that in this game. Bryce Cotton doing Bryce Cotton things, but everybody else came along for the ride. And this is why I'm so high on this team. They are so fun. They are so deep, and they've just got different weapons. Keanu Pinder's playing aggressive. He's taking more threes than normal, but our Manza looked really good. Christian Doolittle was the unsung hero in this game. Ben Hedger was great, but Doolittle's defense, the way to push the pace, what he means to this team. Christian Doolittle will be the difference maker in them getting to a championship series and winning a championship series. He's that important to this team.
I think Keanu Pinder has to be consistent. He has to score like he did the other night in order for them to win. Yes, Cotton, we know Cotton's Superman, and he can do it all. But you need help. You got to have that Robin with Batman in order for them to get to that championship game, and I think he's the man to do it. Last year, he struggled a little bit with that position, but I think this year, he's the man to do it.
If you look at this game, if you're a Perth Wildcats fan, a Perth coaching staff, and you look at, okay, what is our perfect start to the season? Play great defense, beat a potential hyped-up contender, have our two best players having great games in front of our home fans. Now, it all came to a T. You couldn't ask for a better start.
No, and again, I look at this, and you talk about how to get Keanu Pinder to play at this level every game. I think the first 2 to 3 minutes, he's your go-to guy. What Bryce Cotton is so good at is being unselfish and picking his moments, because he also knows that the defense is locked in the first 3 minutes. You can run a play or two here, but make sure Keanu Pinder's the focal point in the first 3 minutes, get him feeling good about himself, and then Bryce is going to do his thing. And you also know if it's a big game, he's going to play 40.
Yep. Don't you dare tell Bryce Cotton to relax, because I'm the sort of guy who wants someone to score 50 again, like Chris Golding back did. And it angers me non-stop that Bryce Cotton is so unselfish. And you look at that, 8 of 13 for the three-point line. He should have put up 20 attempts the way that he was playing. I want Bryce to have a legacy game and go for 50, 60, you name it, but he's too unselfish to do that.
He's still not going to make him. He's still going to be the best player in the league.
Because that's it. If you want to, you talk about getting into the greatest of all time. A 50-piece won't do it as much as another championship will.
No,
and that is why he is in the conversation already, and he's an unbelievable player at that.
8 threes in one game.
What a way to start.
On him.
Is this the start of it? Well, that's also to be said. You're getting 13 of them off. That's much easier said than done as well. So as we move on to the Phoenix, the one sort of thing that was glaring out to me, and it's a scheduling issue. The Phoenix, that was a neutral game, and the Phoenix played Perth in Perth. Rough, having to play Perth there, because it's a home game for the Wildcats. They play Perth 2 times on the road at RAC this year. Cairns, Tassie and the Bullets play once. Surely somewhere in the scheduling here we can say, do we have Southeast Melbourne playing 3 times at RAC, or do we have the Bullets playing twice?
A lot of it, then you move around other games. I've delved into scheduling stuff before. It is very, very hard to figure out, and I don't envy the people who have to do that. But the Phoenix as a whole, I think there's a lot to work. We talked about their defensive identity, and I left that game even more confused about what it is.
Right.
I just don't know what their defensive identity is going to be. And it might be their starting five. If you look at it, it doesn't have to be every game. You can have certain games here and there. But maybe for a game that has an elite scoring guard like Bryce Cotton, it's either Wieskamp or maybe even Sobes who comes off the bench for that game to put Glover in the starting lineup and say, go to Bryce, right? Some games it won't happen, but who knows?
We look at the starting lineup right here. Do we give the Phoenix a mulligan here? I'm inclined to say yes, because it is an entirely new group. Are we going to knee-jerk reaction and sit here? They haven't performed against a potential championship team in round one?
No, I still have them finishing top four. I think they'll figure it out. But I'm just trying to figure out what is their defensive identity. And I think that it'll come where they may not be afraid to switch up the starting lineup against opposition teams that have that real one go-to guard like Bryce Cotton. I think that might be something they get to, and they might find something that works. And their backup minutes without Geordie Hunter on the floor, who got in foul trouble, is a bit of an issue too.
Aaron Baines sitting behind the South East Melbourne bench. They're pretty thin at that centre spot with Geordie Hunter. Peter Hooley, am I eating into a later segment?
You might be. You very much might be.
We'll leave it right there then, of course.
Listen, no mulligans for Phoenix. They got 5 superstars. They got 4 or 5 superstars on this team, all right? For the last 3 or 4 years, we've talked about how bad their defense is. They have an opportunity right now to be the team in Melbourne with those stars because the Melbourne United are all getting older. Chris Golding, 34, 35. Siulepa, Dellavedova. These guys, Clark, all these guys are getting older. You have an opportunity to be the team in Melbourne. Sobey has an opportunity to be the face of Melbourne basketball. Chris Golding's getting older. I'm not saying he's done because Chris Golding can still do it. You got to go out there and play the right way, Sobey. You can't look. This is the first game of your team. Put them on your back. Play the right way. You can't let the referees get in your head. You can't have 5 turnovers and 4 fouls and get a technical foul. You can't do that.
Is that the issue? What's the issue right now with Nathan Sobey? Because this was not the debut he wanted, and it was also the debut that a lot of people had expected with him sitting into this lineup. The turnovers, getting into it with the opposition. Only 4 from 11 from the field. It wasn't a terrible shooting game for someone who's still trying to find their way in this lineup.
Well, I heard something a couple of days before that it was questionable to even play, whether that was a sickness or not. And I'm not making an excuse for that. I think that it is. They're going to have to figure out the Walton Sobey show. And again, I've got no problem. I think they're going to do that. But again, defensively, if they're going to be the fastest paced team offensively, they've got to be able to lock it up defensively. They gave up way too many fast break points.
3 games down at HoopsFest. Plenty more to come after the break.
Pathetic performance by us. That's the best word I can describe it. Not at the level for that entire first half. A couple little runs there. We brought bench unit in that played to the standard that we expect. And super disappointing because we went through a year of this last year where left things too late. Commendable effort by us to put some fight in and make a game of it, but that's not who we want to be and not the standard we expect.
Certainly not mincing his words there, Coach Schuler. Now, I will preface before we chat this New Zealand-Brisbane game, it was a late surge by Brisbane. Down 26 to the Breakers and 30 seconds to go in that game, and they're right in there with a chance. So I understand the saying, if my grandmother had wheels, she would be a bike, but we very easily could be talking about a win here, Peter Hooley.
We could be, but there are some things they need to fix and address. I don't look into the blitz form too much any season, but defensively, Justin Schuler is saying it was pathetic. It's more of how they go about doing this. When you have the 2 biggest players in the league and you play that drops defense, everybody else has to defend and be in the right spots and willing to help. I found some clips from this game that I want to look at to identify. So have a look at some of these. When they're in the drops, so you see that's Torrey Smith-Milner, but look at everyone watching the ball. Keandre Cook, Tyra Harrison, no one sees. That was taken care of. That defensive was there. They had 2 guys stopping the ball. You've got to get back to your own man there. And as these keep going, we're going to see here's more drops with Rocco. Casey Prather, Dengadell, Keandre Cook, you've got to be on the split line there because Dane Pinot walks into a little floater. You've got to help each other out, especially the drops defense. It's so hard. Even here, Casey Prather, 2 steps a bit closer. On the nail, we call it, right in the middle of that logo. You get a hand on that. You can't just rely on Rocco to try and solve the problems. And right here, okay, we got blocked on one end. Let's talk. Who's got who? We stop it right here. Keandre Cook, you've got to run and protect the basket. You just can't all stand still. No one's talking. Ooh. Dane Pinot gets a layup. Those breakdowns are what Justin Schuler is talking about. You can't have those and say, hey, you know what, we've got Rocco. And again, as past players, we know as guards, when we're in drops and you get hit by a screen, in your mind, you're like, we got Rocco, man. He's gonna solve this issue.
Yeah.
You've got to be on the same page together. That was just 4 clips. There was so many in the first 3 quarters.
I know you said you don't take a lot out of the preseason, and not on either, but the way Brisbane played in the preseason, they won the whole thing. They looked a lot better. I was expecting more, like you said, from them in this game. I didn't expect for them to play as bad as they did, and I'm sure the coach is saying the same thing. You can't wait until the fourth quarter to put your best defenders in there and play.
Well, you've got to understand, they've also got to understand that every team knows you've got the 2 biggest players in the league, and not every team has a PJC. So we will have an asterisk there, but everyone's going to try and exploit that drops defense
100%,
like that.
100%.
So how do you prepare that? You've got to have 5 players willing to defend and the effort. And to be honest, they probably were thinking in the back of their minds what we all were thinking. No Freddie Gillespie. We're going to win this game. We all thought Brisbane were going to win that game, but credit to the New Zealand Breakers, they were unbelievable.
We all picked Brisbane because we thought these scorelines were going to be flipped because I had the New Zealand Breakers finish.
This was a players coach who just was fresh out of retiring 2 years ago, who had a game plan that he would have loved to play in. That's exactly what happened because they went to work. And again, it's weird to think about it because this is a team that Monty Mayall put together for this reason. He wanted shooters around PJC to look great. Thought Mitch McCarron's aggressiveness, we thought this would be the case. He was great. Mojave King, a most improved player candidate. And then Sam Menenga was awesome as well. But this was so fun to watch, and this just looked like exactly what Petteri Koponen wanted.
But it looks like a team that's been together for a long time, and they haven't been. PJC passed the ball. He got guys wide open shots. They played the right way. Menenga was fantastic, 22 points, 7 rebounds. If he can shoot like that, does Gillespie get the starting spot? That's the question I got to ask.
See, I'm not so sure. I thought yes, but like when he was looking to be aggressive, it took it at the 2 tallest players in the league. Probably a little side of it where you've got to think about rewarding that, at least for a couple more games.
Of course.
It was close games all round. The closest, the only one that really blew out was the Hawks taking on the Cairns Taipans. Now, the Hawks, we laughed at Damon Lowry when he said the Hawks were his championship
I'm
pick.
still laughing.
I'm still laughing at his Melbourne United picks. I'm still laughing at Damon Lowry, but I'm not laughing at this pick because they looked good. Days, legit. Froling, we know he was legit, but he looks to have gone to another level.
Lockie Albrecht, their bigs just took control of this game. Days, I didn't realize how big he was, how solid he was. When you see him in person, you go, because I'm thinking Gary Clark. This is a younger version of Gary Clark, but more aggressive, who can score, who rebounds, and having fun. Gary Clark never smiled. This guy was smiling on the floor, killing people. I thought he played well.
Is he better than Garrett Clark?
That's the question we got to wait and see. I don't want to jump the gun. He's just as...
People are asking the question, though, aren't they?
Because he's a slim, thick Gary Clark.
They look good. They
Yeah.
look very good. And again, you talk about New Zealand, how much fun they were having, a team that looked like they'd been together. It's exactly what we saw from the Illawarra Hawks, and they will 100% be a contender.
Last year's pre-season, Lockie Albrecht, he looked legit. We got to the season, he tailed off. He wasn't the same player. He was fantastic in this game. Active, again, efficient from the floor. If you're an NBA scout, please keep paying attention to this man.
You know what he does, though? He's putting pressure on Sam Froling and Days. Because he plays so well, if they're having a bad game, I'm going to go to Lockie. Lockie's playing consistently. He's had a great preseason. He knows the NBA scouts are looking, but he's just playing. He's not worried about them. He's just being himself. He's a young kid who's having fun.
Also, with the Cairns Taipans, we said the entire preseason, this is a team that's built around Taron Armstrong. 40 said it, this is Taron Armstrong's team. So we cannot sit here and trash the Taipans who don't have a point guard. Kyle Adnam has played the most NBL games on this team, the backup point guard. He's out of this lineup. Tad Duflemire deserves a place in the NBL, but it is not as a starting point guard. So for me, we can't read too much into the Taipans. They have no point guard.
I read absolutely nothing into that loss from Cairns for that exact reason. They need a point guard. Any of them would do. Kyle Adnam would be fine to hold it down. Jackson McCoy, without Taron Armstrong, who they need desperately, because you saw Rob Edwards and Pedro Bradshaw had a really tough first game in the NBL because they had to create a lot of stuff themselves. And when you've got Taron there, you don't have to do that. He's going to find you looks. They will be absolutely fine. They need a point guard back ASAP.
They need Taron Armstrong back. Until Taron Armstrong is back in this team, I am not going to sit here and write him off.
I think Kyle Adnam can hold it down for sure. I think, again, he can put points on the board, but he's also a very good passer.
So if Taron's playing or Kyle's playing, is that a different result?
100%. 100%.
You don't think?
Rob Edwards is
They're not getting blown out.
No, they're not getting blown out, but I think Illawarra is still a better team.
I think Illawarra still wins the game, but Rob Edwards having to take the ball down the floor, he still played great because he's a legit import in this league. But let's get the ball out of his hands, get into a better scoring position.
They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. Now, Hools, I actually promised you at a bar that I would never call you a snitch on this subject, and I won't. And I also may have buried the lead. So I have butchered your first 2 segments of Hools's hearing for this year, and I'd like to formally apologise.
We're off to a slow start. That's all right, no stinger as well. So I'm not so much hearing anything like locked in stone, but Aaron Baines last week in HoopsFest said in the press conference that there was no official word on him retiring. People were trying to retire Aaron Baines. He was like, hang on, hold the phone. He said he's fit, he's healthy, and I know that is now sitting in the back of the mind of some clubs. I think that some clubs hearing, oh, he's not done, maybe that's an injury replacement down the line.
Who are the clubs?
Can you give us a club?
Who are the clubs?
Is this my segment or yours? Come on with it, bro. Come on with it.
There are some clubs that are like, oh, okay, just to know that he is available if we need, that is always good to have.
Some clubs, man.
Which clubs?
There's some clubs on Chapel Street that I'll be hitting this week. Which NBL teams are looking at Aaron Baines?
Firstly, when it comes down to it, we all know what those clubs are.
Yeah, we do.
You look at the clubs that could use a backup big man. We just talked about South East Melbourne. Whether that's in the back of their minds, I'm not sure. They're not one that have told me anything. I'm just saying that would make sense.
We got it out of you. We got it out of you. South East Melbourne Phoenix, lock it in. Aaron Baines on his way. Joe Healy, hopefully with a little bit more hard-hitting news than what Pete just gave us next.
Davis has got the Arthur chasing him around. There's no relief for Adelaide star point guard. It's either Bull Qualt or Isaiah Liafa. That is tough. Super tough from DJ Vasiljevic. One Jung Lee wants to get in on the act.
But it's the first time in those 16 seasons he's gone and got himself to the barber shop and said, give me that line.
Staying on trend, I like that. Cotton for 3. Another one for Bryce.
Catch me if you can. Bryce Cotton off to a hot start. 8 from 13. This one doesn't count percentages, but I wish that it did. And DJ is going to be a guy that's going to be climbing up that list as well. Watching him from the corner was ridiculous. Some of the shots that he hits, especially off the inbounds, all thanks to Mitsubishi Motors. Of course, the leading threes.
Love it. Yeah, I think DJ's going to be up there. Bryce Cotton, you're right. You liked Catch Me If You Can? You like leading with that?
I did. Did I nail that?
Well, you hadn't spoke for the whole 2-minute ad break, so I was like, what's he thinking about? That's what you went with, so I'm glad you nailed that.
Well, luckily, I don't have to speak too much coming up because we've got the best newsbreaker, the best journalist in the game, Joe Healy, and we've got to start, Joe. I have to formally apologise for calling you Joe Grace Healy, which is your middle name, which doesn't actually get used anywhere but Instagram.
No worries, Felix. The cat got you.
There we go. Now, the most exciting thing coming out of HoopsFest was Montrezl Harrell. The fallout from that, can we keep him here?
It was so exciting, was it not, being there for that game and just seeing his sheer size and the energy that he brought to the 36ers. I actually did make a call to the club yesterday and I just said, hey guys, is there a world in which we could actually keep him in the league? The answer was yes, with an asterisk. I know, Pete, you alluded to this at the top of the show. I need to kind of take you through how it could happen. So assuming that Jarrell Martin is going to be back and in the full roster, which they are expecting within the next sort of 5 to 6 weeks, they would then have to move one of their marquees. So say Isaac Humphries would have to come off of the marquee contract. They'd also have to free up another roster spot. So someone like a Ben Gusti would be deactivated and then re-signed as a DP. So a fair few moving sort of parts there, but I think that if you're Grant Kelly, you are absolutely leaving that door open because he was so exciting. And given everything that the club went through in the off-season, it was awesome to see them out there performing like that.
There's a couple of guys on that Adelaide roster that are sweating, Pete.
I was sweating a little bit when you said Harrell too.
Yeah,
Pharrell.
No, wait. You better sweat when he sees you next time. That's what's going to happen.
It's not Pharrell. It's not Pharrell. Yeah, I think that, again, so there's also the part that Joe didn't mention too about what happens if Jarrell Martin takes even longer to get back. Like, he's missed a lot of time and now he's done an ankle, he's got to get back to match fitness. So that could take longer than expected and draw that out. But I like the fact that everybody's talking about how they can keep him here. We want him here in the league, for sure.
We want him in the league, but I'll tell you who we want even more in the league is Roman Siulepa, who there's been talk of NRL, there's been talk of other teams. Is there any more developments on that story, Joe?
There is. So we sort of spoke over HoopsFest to the fact that he was leaning towards Cairns. After what we saw with Adelaide, the door has definitely not been closed on the 36ers either. I think with the way that Mike Wells is coaching, the big name signings, that's enough to sort of entice a young Next Stars prospect. Calls have been made today about Roman, so the process is definitely still moving. He will make a decision. What we do know, though, is that he actually won't hit the court. We forget that he's only 18. He's still in high school, so he won't hit the court until he's finished with his exams, which should be, I think, in the next 5 to 6 weeks or so.
Joe, do we think that decision might go back and forth for a little bit? Because I heard the same thing as you, where at HoopsFest when he arrived, it was looking like it was going to be Adelaide, and then now it was Cairns before that, and now it was Cairns after Perth. So is there a world where we don't get a decision until he's a week away from playing?
I don't think so. Just it's my understanding that the process really is moving. I think that they want to set things in stone so that they can pre-plan and look forward to his arrival. But as I said, we just won't actually see him on the court. So it doesn't feel like it's so rushed. We'll just hopefully we'll know in the next little while.
Now, Joe, Lanard just had a word with me off camera. He said as soon as he sees Scott Roth, he's going to walk right up to him and tell him what's up after what happened over there in that interview. First off, you did a fantastic job holding your composure in that one. I'm sure that would have been a bit of an annoying one. But how was the flow on from that?
Look, I don't have a lot to say on it. To be honest, I probably wasn't going to say anything. We've moved on from it, but I have had a lot of people come up to me and ask me about it, ask me if I'm okay. I'm absolutely fine, just doing my job. I don't think that there was anything personal in it. Scott's actually reached out, and the club did as well, to apologise, which he didn't have to do, so I really appreciated that. But as I said, we move on. I look forward to hopefully getting to speak to him again at some point, and I must admit, though, I definitely am looking forward to seeing the championship rematch again come Saturday night.
Wow. Joe, you did heaps of interviews over there on the weekend. Is there anybody that stood out? Any special interviews that stood out?
I wouldn't say special interviews. I did get to speak to Darius Days, though, after their win, and I just got that sense of his energy out there. I think that he's going to be a really fun character to have in the league this season. If he can continue to back it up like he did on the court as well, he's going to be a really fun one to watch.
Joe, HoopsFest, a resounding success from all reports. Is there any word on whether we're going to see it again in another state in WA? Roger Cook, the Premier, seemed fairly keen to have it back.
WA are definitely keen to have it back. I mean, that was such a fun few days, guys. You really sort of felt the energy around Perth. There were banners everywhere, whatnot. Really big names as well, putting a spotlight on the league. So hopefully we will see it again. The only thing I would say is that I think the timing of it wasn't ideal. I guess we learn as we go. But I think competing with the footy, it's always going to be tough, but I would love to see it in, say, January during the school holidays. I think maybe might be more feasible and just a even bigger celebration at that time of year, I guess.
Either January or before the FIBA break, one of the FIBA breaks, right? And again, I loved it. I think it's only going to get better. And the fact that it was a success, it feels like it was more of like can we do this? Can we achieve this? Yes. And then next time, whenever it is, wherever it is, if it's WA, how do we make it even bigger? I'm talking, we're having live overtimes, right? We're going to do we're going to have live overtime at HoopsFest, all of the things like that to really make it pop, but it definitely was a bunch of ticks.
Shout out to the West Australian government as well, doing a fantastic job lending a hand the funding to make that all work as well. Now, Joe, you're off to New Zealand, and it looks like New Zealand, have they got any more artillery for those NBA games?
Guys, I saw them posting a LeBron James social media clip this morning about Taco Tuesday, and it registered at the time. I was like, that's a little bit weird. Then they announced that Taco Fall is actually playing with them for the NBL NBA games, and it clicked. I was like, okay, I probably should have realised that at the time. But this is so exciting. So they're heading over next Wednesday. They play, the schedule's a lot. They play 3 games in, I think, 8 days. They're playing against Utah, they're playing against Philly, and then they end in Tulsa. They're playing against OKC. But they've brought in the big man just support them on the tour. Again, whether or not we see him in the NBL, it's very unlikely, but I think it just, again, casts a spotlight. It's all about the NBL's growth, and I think it's really exciting. So I'm heading over with the team, very much looking forward to speaking to him and learning about his experience with the Breakers.
Well, Joe, you have a fantastic time over there. Enjoy that. Hopefully the Breakers can pick up a win.
Thanks, guys. I'll catch you.
Well, is Taco Fall just big? Is he good? Well, we're going to find out in those games. Plenty more coming up after the break.
What's this? Whoa, Lanard Copeland.
We love that photo there, and the crazy thing about it is that's actually Cope's 30 years ago, but he has not aged a day since.
That's a positive thing.
That's a compliment, my man.
Yeah, thank you.
Copes, what can't you cope with this?
I can't cope with that ugly picture, first of all. Take that off, let's find something better. Now, I'm watching the games the last couple of years.
I'd hope so.
Games changed for me because it's been a long time. I retired 20 years ago. The amount of huddles that these players do now. After every foul, after every whistle. What are you talking about? You just had a timeout 30 seconds ago. Why are you huddling, Pete? I need to know. Look, what are you huddling about? Is this football or is it basketball? Yes, it's okay to get together every now and again, but not every 2 minutes, not every...
It's just free throws, though, right? Or you're seeing in other places too?
All the time. All the time.
So this is where I think we saw it in the Blitz. I didn't see it as much over HoopsFest. In the Blitz, I saw a clear directive, whether it was from Scott Boland, the referees in the preseason or whatever. When there's 2 free throws being awarded, the huddle takes place at the top of the three-point line. So the first free throw is with no one around, so it doesn't matter. And then you all come in and we have no time wasted.
Right.
Because normally it happens straight away and the refs go off and they want to huddle after the free throw, first one as well. I like that better. I think the under-18s have been doing that better. But yeah, there is a lot of... But again, I remember Dino always saying, you get in trouble if you didn't huddle to talk about what was going on.
You know why you didn't have to huddle?
Why?
Because Andrew Gaze was doing everything.
What do you mean?
He was just saying, this is what's happening. He didn't need to get the team around.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to huddle every now and again, but if there's a foul, you huddle, and then there's a free throw, you huddle.
You were an on-court leader and talker, or that was Drewy?
We were a talker. We talked.
It's a good point. I'm with you.
Get there. Get here. Get back. Now it's like, I need you to get back.
But also,
and you know what? You get in those huddles. Hey, we need to talk a little bit more. It's the same thing every time. You're just talking.
Come on, man. Too many huddles.
I will agree that I do think some of them are for optics, so the coach thinks that you've got. I will agree with you there, but I also think that directive of putting them above the three-point line so we can get the first free throw out. It'll look weird. It'll look like it's a technical foul, but then everybody comes in. It's happening around in the juniors. Let's just do that because it saves time and we speed it up and we get to see the hoops.
Good.
You're talking sense. Too many huddles. Stop it.
Thank you.
Let's look at the games that are coming up next round or this coming round. We've got 2 pages of these to get through, so stay tuned. On Thursday, the South East Melbourne Phoenix
Throwdown.
taking on United, the Throwdown. Tickets, I believe they are very, very close to a sellout here, so there may be some tickets available, but that is going to sell out any minute now, so getting quick.
I'm still a little rattled because you said we're going to take a look at next round and then you said the coming round. Which one is it? They're both the same. So
it's the same thing, Pete. Do we need a huddle?
You keep burying.
Do we need a huddle in here right now?
You keep burying all the leads. I'm very excited for that Perth and Sydney game. I think that's going to be fun. But also, Sydney have, again, Illawarra. Talk about some other rivalries. I think that's going to really step up this year. It's going to be a fun rivalry to watch. So I'm looking forward to this. But it starts with the Throwdown.
So all starts with Throwdown. Lanard Copeland, the biggest story for you coming into this week?
The biggest story coming.
Not the huddles.
Not the huddles.
Bigger.
I think New Zealand, the way they played, man, I'm impressed with the way they played. Now Brisbane weren't up to par, but New Zealand just played great basketball.
And they've got to go over. They could be 2-0, running with a head of steam, and then they've got to go over to America, which is a bit of a whatever you want to call that.
We've seen teams go over there and play well. You can go over there and lose and play well and still come back with the confidence, though, right?
What was that?
Too much of that. You don't want to run into that.
Yeah, that's when you do that, it's something different. I'm really very interested to see how New Zealand come back. If they do go 2-0 as well, because they're playing Philly, who's a contender, and they're playing OKC, who's a contender. That is going to be really tough.
It's the first game of. Are they going to play their real guys?
If it's close, close, they will. But again, I'm very interested to see the Friday night game, Sydney versus Perth. That's going to be fun to watch. Sydney have stayed in Perth.
Yes.
So they got there early last week. They're going to stay there. They're going to come together, do a lot of things. I think they're playing golf on Monday. So doing all of that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they go out. That's going to be a potential championship series matchup. Right
that round of golf has me really interested in how they're going to do. It is time for Sports Bets. The trend is your friend. Oh, there we go. The trend is your friend. So in this segment, what we're going to be doing is we're looking at trends in the NBL that may help you on a punting scale. And for me, what we saw in round one, what we saw in the preseason from Bull Kowal has me very excited and has other import guards scared. And Lanard Copeland, we may agree to disagree on that. Bull Kowal, the best defender in the league. Right now, when you look at an NBL game and who they're matching up with, and you see a superstar guard in their player points line, Bull Kowal's going to lock that man up and send them to unders. Now, Lanard, You reckon that he fouls too much?
Bull Quall fouls too much. Bull Quall.
Come on.
His last name 2 syllables.
I know.
I'm like, what's this?
Bull Quall, you might be right. He may be a great defender.
The movie
Bull Quall is a great defender, but I just think he has to be a little bit smarter because you can't get into foul trouble and have 2 fouls in the first half or in the first quarter and then try to play the same kind of defense.
The movie
Benchwarmers,
Benchwarmers, where he adds too many syllables to it. You just can't add a syllable to his last name.
If you're tuning into this show to watch me pronounce names correctly, you're going to have...
Pronounce?
We're pronouncing him now?
He's gone.
Oh, man.
He's gone. Got him.
Still trying to work through the words here, but we'll get there eventually. The Adelaide guards, look, Kendrick Davis, Jason Kadee, turnovers between them. Bull Kawal was dogging them up and down the court. 7 turnovers. You look at that between them against Sydney. We're going to see a whole lot more of that, and that's why when we see those total points lines, I'm going to start looking now. They come up against... I'm going to say what is considered sin in the NBL, and I know how to pronounce his name, so I should be good here. Bryce Cotton unders this week with Bull Kawal dogging him up and down the floor.
I agree with what you're saying. I will never doubt greatness in Bryce Cotton, ever.
I feel dirty. I feel dirty saying.
The thing about Bull Kawal, what he did that game on the weekend, everyone's skeptical on whether the plus-minus makes any sense. I understand that, but there's certain times where you just can't deny it. He was a plus 39 in 22 minutes in a game they won by 8.
Yep.
They didn't win by 60.
Right.
Every time he was on the floor, his defense was setting a tone and the team was playing well. That is phenomenal, and that's why he's one of the best defenders in the league, a top 2 for sure.
No doubt a great defender. No doubt. I'm talking this, though. When you have 2 fouls, you can't play the same way because they're going to call a third, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to go right over there and sit with Brian Gorgian and talk to him about what's happening.
It's not a bad place to sit.
No, but you want to be on the floor. All I'm saying is, because I call that game, when he had 4 fouls, he could have easily fouled out like that. There were 2 or 3 plays. The referee didn't call it, but he was right up and in. You got to let the guy breathe a little bit. I know you want to play defense like that, but you're not going to play more than 20 minutes.
But is he going to play more than 20 minutes in this lineup anyway?
He wants to. I'm sure Brian Gorgian wants him to as well. If you could, you wouldn't take Bull Call off. I think it's that important to what they do.
He has size, he's strong.
I think it's changed a lot now because of the physicality we've seen over the past few years. When he first got into the league, he was getting away with a lot more, but now the referees understand that he's the most physical defender by far, but he's also one of the best at what he does.
Yes.
So they're on the lookout because as soon as that ball goes up, he's hunting someone and just running. He wants to set a tone to see what he can get away with. I love it, but again, there's a couple when you've got 2 or you've got 1 in the first minute, then he has to take a step back and he's not as effective.
Well, the trend that is your friend is Bull Qual unders, whoever he's coming up against. Thank you very much. We've got plenty more coming up on NBL Overtime.
Koala bear. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
I can't even pronounce the word. Welcome back to NBL Overtime, and it's one of the final segments now, and it's in honour of our great mate, Corey Homicide Williams, who unfortunately passed away recently. We love him, we still love him, and we've got a segment in his honour, so without further ado, whoever made the graphic there, unfortunately that cupcake looks like something my dog would back out. So
we'll fix that.
We might have to fix that one up into something more cupcake, but this ain't a cupcake league. We're each going to find something each week that's not cupcake. That's what Corey used to say. It ain't a cupcake league, and we're going to honour him by finding something just a little interesting that pricked our ears this week. And I'll kick it off.
Of course you will.
With Grant Kelly from the 36ers. Now, this phone looks like it's from the 8, a BlackBerry. No one's using those things. He's in one of the most senior positions, the owner of the 36ers, and you're going to roll around and think you could text Phil Jackson on that phone and potentially still get him coaching. Bob Cousy might be playing for the 36ers on that thing.
Jesus Christ could answer that phone.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's good. That's a good lead-off by you.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Pete,
now, we had a great weekend at HoopsFest. You talk about Gazy, how popular he was. There was probably no one who was a fan favourite more than this guy, which means everybody's watching this guy. And I had my DMs were flooded.
Oh, yeah.
Do you notice a trend here at all, Copes? I want you to take a look at some of these things. He did an exceptional job hosting. This was our first game. It was exceptional. We see on Thursday night. There's Friday. Just keep watching the great man. There's Saturday. This was the boys. We had a great time, didn't we? Here's Sunday. Oh, what a great... Now, what do you notice? Now, the thing you notice is he wore the same thing every single day.
Stinky over here.
What makes me even more upset about that is that we had some late late dinners a couple of those nights. He was still in that. But I had a couple people messaging me like, is he wearing the same thing? I was like, I think he's got a couple of those.
You know what I found out as well? That Lynx Africa does nothing to the suit for 6 straight days. But you know what? I love my suit from Men's Club so much that I didn't want to step out of it. And luckily you didn't get my jocks on there as well.
Wow, I'm up now, huh?
Yeah, you're right.
Look, you're right. This isn't a cupcake league.
We have cupcake moments.
But there's some cupcake moments. And I don't want to rag on you, Felix, but I gotta come at you. You did a great job interviewing Carmelo Anthony. Let's just have a look at him after the interview.
No. What did you say?
Can I get the photo? Can you make sure I get that photo, please?
Cameras are
Stop
always
begging for the
wrong
photo. Stop begging for the photo, looking for celebrity. Are you kidding me? Come on, bro.
Hey, when the name is as big as Carmelo Anthony, pride, ego, it all goes out
Can
the
I find
window.
that photo, please? Can you give me that?
And Nick Marshall, you dodged a bullet with that bad inbounds pass. That's what
You know what? There was about 3 things in my head I thought we might be going to as well that were also roasting me. But great job, fellas. It is time for another segment. It is my pressure rankings. Every week, top 5 people, teams, animals, anything. Your grandmother, anyone could be under pressure, and I'm going to list them on this list. So we'll start off with number 5. Number 5, the least, 1, the most.
Great stinger.
Number 5, whoever is interviewing Scott Roth pre-game on Saturday. Under pressure?
Yep. Oh, is this it? Are we saying yes?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, yes. That's hot, yeah.
Number 4, Isaac Humphries.
Oh.
2 points, 1 rebound.
I think, yeah.
A little bit of pressure on
bit of
himself.
First game.
Number 3, the Brisbane Bullets.
Under pressure. Ding, 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 ding. Under pressure.
We only had 7 seconds, Coach. You're going to start rattling off songs. We can't play more than 7 seconds. Do you know the rest of the lyrics?
Apparently, whatever's happening over there. Number 2, Nathan Sobey. After his performance in Game 1, the issues were, is he going to work with Walton Jr.? The pressure's on him for Game 2.
Oh, I think the pressure's more on the team rather than just Sobey. So I would have pushed that up.
Have I struck out all 4 of these?
No pressure here.
Well, I got 1 more to go. Anyone refereeing Adelaide and Montrez Harrell after what we saw from that warning?
Harrell, he's back. There's pressure on your pronunciation. That's number 1.
That's what we'll say next week.
Well, you know what? This might be the last time I ever enter this studio because where do I make a WorkSafe claim? Somewhere on here, but no. Anyway, it was a massive opening round. It's going to be a massive second round. Peter Hooley, thank you very much. Lanard Copeland, thank you very much. You've been watching NBL Overtime. Get at us. #NBL Overtime.